what I came to is this. I felt like I was given back my future. I felt like I was given back my future. It felt like the rest of my life opened up in front of me. And while we lost so many in a visceral way, it seems that we are at the very beginning worldwide of being given back our future. When you look to your future, what do you see? When you look at humanity's future, what do you see? Do you have a sense that you even have a future? A person without a sense of their future will be in despair before he or she knows it. People who don't have a sense of their future, even though they don't have a clue what it's going to look like, are without meaning and purpose. The good news of Easter is you have a future. I have a future. Here now and at the hour of our death. And Easter proclaims that not only do we have a future, but also that our future is good. It's full of goodness. I know it doesn't always feel like that. It's hard for me sometimes. It's so discouraging to me sometimes that we're no further along in recognizing the inherent dignity and nobility of every human being without exception. That we're not further along in experiencing a communion between persons more than divisions. That we're not further along in finding an alternative to all this violence. And yet it has been proven with science now, that we currently are less violent as a people in this worldwide community of the earth. Proven. There you have it. Statistical evidence that human beings are growing up, evolving, even though in this segmented moment or that, in some countries of the world, probably worse than others, and even our own sometimes, it doesn't appear to be true. Sometimes it seems like only chaos out there are in here. Sometimes it feels like we're regressing, one step forward and two steps back. But in deep time, this all can be trusted. We've got to trust the bigger picture. We've got to trust that we have a future, and it is good. That is the core of this feast, that we humans have a future, that God is all about it for us as surely as God was all about it in that first Easter morning. The risen Christ is that omega point, lived among us. We can see our future in him. As we know too well, the future will not be peaches and cream. We have plenty of reason to be cynical. We have plenty of reason to give up. We have plenty of reasons to worry. But the resurrection says that we have a future and we can trust it. God is in it. Love is waiting for us at every turn. As our mamas used to tell us after each one of those ouchies, you're going to be okay. Honey, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay, Gary. Easter says we are going to be okay. I have seen the future, in the faces now of the vaccinated. I see the future every time I fall in love all over again. When it was all I could do was imagine. And I couldn't stop imagining our future together with this one I was in love with. The future almost obsessed me when I fell in love. I see the future in our students. One of the things I love about being here at the CSC is that the students I'm working with have a future. Most of their lives are in front of them. They mostly only have a future. I see the future in them. I see the future in the faces of couples daring marriage. Just inside that chapel, sometimes week after week in the spring and the fall, I see the future in them. What is marriage? What is marriage if it is not entrusting our futures to each other, our futures to another human being with all the unknowns and uncertainties? Is there anything more daring in all the world than a marriage? Your marriages, however difficult they are right now, your marriages have a future. So do your friendships. No matter how hard things get, there is tomorrow. Count on that, Easter says. Count on it. But there is one thing that can kidnap our future. The one thing to consider that really does perhaps shorten our futures, that Jesus kept pointing to and again. It's fear, fear, fear of the future that shortens our future. We worry more than we have to if we really believed in the power of resurrection. One of our graduate students told me recently that even while everything seems to be coming back after a year in this pandemic that took away so much, in her words, I find myself afraid that this could happen again in my lifetime. That now I will always be waiting for the other shoe to drop. It is true that the future will take our lives, and it will take the lives of everyone I love. That is true. And it's also true that it will give it back again. The future will give my life back to me, bigger, better, more whole, on the other side of those most awful days. This pandemic took so much away from us, but we can get it back and more on the other side of it. Over this last year, so many of you have lost someone you loved. As I look out among you at this very hour, I see it. I remember the stories. I was with you in some of it along the way. So many of you have lost someone you loved dearly in the past year. Yes, you grieved and still are. And do you remember what it's like after a terrible loss or failure to all of a sudden find yourself laughing again? In the midst of your grief, through your tears, all of a sudden you were broadsided by something unawares, unexpected, and you just found yourself laughing. In that moment of laughter, that was your future given back to you. Because of this feast, we know that tomorrow is going to come, because we've seen it. From that limp, spit-covered, blood-soaked, dead body left in its grave, there emerged this Christ of all history, this Christ who plays in 10,000 places, lovely in limbs and eyes not his. This cosmic Christ, this universal Christ, this fullness to his life. And you heard St. Paul just proclaimed, he is the firstborn of the dead, not the last, but the first one who accomplished, if you will, but that's not the right verb, who became, who evolved into this fullness, to this cosmic Christ, to this universal Christ. He's the first one, but that means there's more to follow. That means us. His resurrection is our future. If we do not have a future, Paul just said to us in that second reading, if we don't have a future, then he has not been raised up. If we don't have a future, he has not been raised up. Look around. Look around right now at all this emerging natural beauty, announcing that the seed of us today will leaf out for each of us and for the whole human family without exception. The resurrection of Christ has become our superpower. In him we have seen the future. My superpower is that I can see through him to my future and yours and ours together. If you have, and I have, one superpower, it is that we can see the future now. We can see where it's all going, despite our mess-ups. This is not a naive, wishful thinking. This is good Catholic theology. Our church teaches, and I believe with all my heart, that everything is moving towards its end, toward what the Creator made it to be. You and I already are ordered to our purpose. The future is all moving towards our union with God, our union with perfect love. That is why our future is not to be dreaded or feared. All this that we call life, even our weaknesses and failures and losses, are being woven into God's future. Even my sins are being ordered to the good, all good that is God. That's where it's all going. The arms of the great mystery we call God are wrapped around all reality, pulling towards itself as the omega point of everything, when Christ will be all in all. The future is love, my friends. The future is love, and the future is only love. And that's why we trust St. Julian of Norwich. One of my favorite quotes that many of you have heard me say again and again, but I can't hear it enough myself. All shall be well, and all shall be well, and every manner of thing shall be well. Do you believe that? Which is to say, do you trust that? You who know me know that I'm a bit of a worrier. That's an understatement. You know that I've been working on it my whole life, and I feel like I'm really getting better at not worrying. But it is still for me, and perhaps for you, the biggest act of faith I could ever imagine. The biggest act of faith is, in spite of myself and us, we will be well. Students tell me the reason they are giving up on the church. But this is a reason I cannot give up on the church. It's our radical optimism about the future. Our church teaches that your future is going somewhere. All of history, All of evolution is being woven into something beyond our imagination that is now and in our future. The mystery of God is like a giant magnet pulling us towards itself. The future looks like gravity. Everything drifting towards something else. Every one of us and everything around us is going to be a part of each other one day. My friends, this is what makes the good news good. We are going together to something good. The whole direction can be trusted. This whole evolution, trusted. The collective experience of all of it going somewhere. Good. Very good. Can be trusted. This feast is grounding us in a greater reality that we can see now. We can see now because of his resurrection. That's why we need Easter. We need the risen Christ front and center to dramatically represent all of it to us and for us. We learn how to trust the human tragedy. It's how God is working it out. The human tragedy is how God is working it out. This is really good stuff. And as we start to rebuild the world post-pandemic, it's more than good stuff. Humanity needs a radical optimism about its future. So do you and I. That we have one and that it's good. All's well that ends well. My mom used to always say, little did I know she got it from Shakespeare. And I didn't know she ever read Shakespeare. Think about that. All's well that ends well. Since we believe it's going to end well, how can we not be well today? How can we not be well right now if it's true that all's well that ends well? Yes, I saw the future. That day after my second shot, I saw the future. And in it, I was alive. And so were you. And so will we always be. Before the mystery of time, my friends, we can only bow.